Hello and welcome to Resource PNG. With the recent drop in world oil prices, many analysts have predicted a tough year ahead for Papua New Guinea. Already there have been concerns raised about the ability of the government to generate enough revenue for the country, especially at this time when the country is heavily dependent on income from the oil and gas sector. What does this mean for the resource sector in PNG?
According to the World Bank, the drop in global oil prices this year will have an effect on the world's economy. PNG's economy and overall growth rate will also be affected. The bank said the impact would depend on a number of factors, including the duration of fall in oil prices. Amongst others, impact of the fall in oil prices would include the following factors. Terms of contract for LNG exports from Papua New Guinea. The contract terms would determine the impact of falling oil prices on value of LNG exports and consequently revenue from LNG exports. The increase in domestic spending due to a fall in fuel prices in PNG and consumers having more money to spend on other goods and services. And for oil and gas producing firms, decline in oil and gas prices would have an adverse effect on profit, while those who were net users of oil and gas would have a positive effect on profit. When asked whether a drop in global oil prices would have some effect on the country's 2015 national budget of $16.2 billion, the World Bank said PNG is a producer of petroleum products and the impact on the budget would depend on a number of factors as well. The Treasury Minister Patrick Pruage says it is too early for the government to say if the drop in oil price will affect the government's cash flow. The Treasurer says a review will be conducted in March to assess the impact before any measures can be implemented to cover for possible budget pressures.
The situation that is happening to Papua New Guinea, it is a worldwide situation, and our government is taking measures to be able to watch the trend, but it is too early for us at this stage to take any action. We are watching the oil prices. I'd say we will review the situation in March of this year. If there is a need for us to look at measures to align as a result of dropping commodity prices, we will do that. But in anything, it's a cycle thing where when the oil prices drop, at some stage it will come up. The question is when it will reverse the trend, so we are watching closely. The world, the IMF has recently, in fact last year, has revised downward the projected world growth. Initial number that was given was 3.8% growth. However, that has been revised downward given the current situation that affects the oil prices and all that. So they've revised the world growth level to 3.2% at the moment.
You're watching Resource PNG. Don't go away. After the break, we speak with Oil Search Limited Managing Director Peter Botten. Back. Oil Search Limited is an oil and gas exploration and development company that has been operating in Papua New Guinea since 1929. Most of the company's assets are located in PNG, where it holds an extensive spread of oil and gas production and exploration licenses. The company's main asset is its 29% stake in the PNG LNG project. The project commenced production of LNG in April 2014 and delivered its first cargo of LNG in May 2014 ahead of schedule. This was a historic milestone for the PNG LNG project, co-venture partners, and for the government and people of PNG. Oil Search is also a major employer in PNG and has contributed immensely to the oil and gas sector, but more importantly, to enriching the lives of people within communities where they operate. Resource PNG recently spoke with Oil Search Managing Director Peter Botten.
Thank you, Mr. Peter Botten, for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Now at the 13th PNG Mining Conference, you spoke about resource sector's contribution to nation building. Can you describe your presentation, what you'd like us to take away from this?
I suppose firstly, the oil and gas sector specifically, I'm not talking about mining, but oil and gas has delivered a huge bonus and boost to nation building since 1992, since oil production started. And more recently with the development of PNG LNG, that development has driven GDP growth as well as government revenues. And obviously with LNG production starting in May this year, production revenues for next year are going to be enormous and will more than double the size of government revenues in the next 18 months or so. So as well as providing revenues, the nation has also benefited from what the resource sector has done in terms of infrastructure build, in terms of social development programs, in terms of skills development, etc. And what I said today is we're on the cusp of another massive growth in Papua New Guinea. We believe as in Oil Search there's at least 2 more and maybe 3 more LNG trains coming to PNG, and we need to manage that very carefully. We all know the impact that PNG LNG had on the economy and people's lives, on jobs, employment opportunities, etc. With at least 2 more LNG trains and maybe 2 projects split between El Cantaloupe and PNG LNG, there's going to be a massive potential impact on society in Papua New Guinea over the next 5 or so years. And we need to carefully manage that as the resource sector, and we need to work with government to help bring the Papua New Guinea people along with the development and make sure they share in the value and wealth that the project might bring. And that was the key message. The resource sector needs to play a role with government to help deliver services, to help deliver power solutions for the country, help deliver health, schools and hospitals, and work in partnership with government to bring everybody along.
Now, there was one particular statement you made, paying taxes is not enough. Can you expand?
Well, as I say, we do pay taxes. We pay substantial taxes, and in my presentation I laid out the tax revenues, the royalties, etc. that the industry's paid since 1992. But where we sit right now is that we have a population in Papua New Guinea of over 7 million people. We have 6% of the population with access to electricity, yet we're sending hundreds of millions of kinas worth of gas to foreign customers. Industry must play a role in helping government deliver power solutions for the country, for the people, which in turn will deliver industry growth and further employment. Same with schools, same with hospitals. You can't just stand back and just pay taxes. We as an industry need to help government deliver services across the nation, not just in our project area, but also across the nation. So people in CPIC, people in Goodenough can actually see the benefits of a massive resource build in PNG, especially as we build further trains over the next few years.
How has Oil Search contributed to power solutions?
Well, firstly, we've been working very closely with government, including PNG Power, to look at ways of upgrading the Highlands grid to provide power in Tari and Hydes area, to provide power in Mendi, and also to augment the Morabay grid near Lae with the development of a power station there. And that, we believe, is fundamental. Within 10 kilometres of the existing power grid through the Highlands, there's about 1.8 million, 2 million people within 10 kilometres of the existing line. If you can upgrade that line, build new stations for them, you can connect almost half the population over a 5 to 7 year period to electricity. And what difference does that make when you're sitting in your house or in your hut, in your village, to your ability to teach your kids reading, to give them access to computers, to give them access to fundamental development aspects that many of us take for granted.
Can you provide a highlight of Oil Search's performance in 2014?
Well, I suppose the impact for Oil Search has clearly been wrapped up in the successful delivery ahead of schedule and on budget of the PNG LNG project. So I think it's typified that in the third quarter this year, from July to September, Oil Search produced almost as much oil and gas as it did in the whole year last year. So it's having a significant impact on our revenue streams, and obviously next year we'll more than quadruple our production base for 2015. Now, it would be very nice not to have seen the significant drop in oil price, but that's a reality that if you've been in the business for any time, you will have seen before.
Oil prices have fallen, and as a result your share value has come down to $8.20. Do you think things will turn around?
Well, look, oil price is not something that we can control, and oil and gas companies, when you see a 38% decline in oil price over the last 3 or 4 months, you're inevitably going to see a decline in revenues, a decline in value. And now hopefully the oil price decline is not of long duration. I'm not sure about that, I'll be honest. I'm not sure how long we'll be at this sort of level. But at the end of the day, it is a commodity, and it goes up and it goes down. And if you look out to the future, both oil and gas is a commodity that everybody needs, everybody wants. And in reality, I'm sure the price will and the supply-demand scenario for oil and gas will balance itself out, and it will progressively go up again. But we all have to live through this. We've seen this happen before, and I'm sure it'll happen again. But at the end of the day, our business is really robust. We have a very great, highly profitable business. We'll see this through.
You're watching Resource PNG. After these messages, we continue our discussion with Oil Search Limited Managing Director Peter Botten. Don't go away. In October 2014, as part of its strategic review, Oil Search announced a new business strategy and refreshed the company vision to generate top quartile returns for shareholders through excellence in socially responsible oil and gas exploration and production. This is underpinned by 6 key strategies. Oil Search Limited Managing Director Peter Botten gives us an insight into the new direction that the company is now taking.
Does Oil Search see further growth in the next 5 to 7 years?
Well, we've just completed a major review of our business. The strategic review we completed a couple of months ago highlighted that we can more than double the size of our business over the next 5 to 7 years, and that's primarily with the development of at least 2 more LNG trains, continued development of our oil business, and a real focus on Papua New Guinea. So we anticipate investing very heavily in Papua New Guinea over the next 5 to 7 years. We believe we'll be investing somewhere around $9 to $10 billion in country, making us the largest single investor in the country. Our future is tied to Papua New Guinea, and we think we can grow our business substantially there. We think there's substantial exploration potential remaining, and that's why we're also focusing on the social issues, bringing everybody along, making sure that our social licence to operate, that there is social and operating stability around the country. And to do that, we need to play our role with government to deliver services such as power, schools, hospitals, etc.
Speaking of that, what is your 5-year plan for the development of Oil Search in impacted areas?
Well, the development of Oil Search will, as I say, inevitably continued oil production in our core areas in the highlands. It will also involve potential expansion of PNG LNG. It'll also obviously involve the development of the Elk Antelope field, and all of those add to a material growth in our wealth, a significant growth in our production base, and an ability for us to pay a higher dividends and higher return to our shareholders.
Speaking of dividends, the company's shareholders' expectancy for an increase in dividends?
Well, we've said at the end of our strategic review that we believe we can give a payout ratio of somewhere between 35% and 50% of our profits in dividends, and on that basis, it's a substantial lift and provides our shareholders with rewards for their patience while we've been developing PNG LNG, and that still allows us to fully participate in the development of further trains, continued exploration and investment in the country. So we think we're in a pretty strong position. Obviously, depending on what the oil price does, that will impact our ability to finally what we invest and how much dividends we pay. But at the end of the day, we're in a very robust position.
Have you adopted a new dividend policy?
Yeah, we've announced that at the last strategic review, which as I say, gives a priority to paying our commitments, after that dividends, after that growth, and so on. So that new dividend policy will be enacted sometime early next year with the results of our 2014 year.
If I may ask, what's the status of the international arbitration case between Oil Search and Total?
Well, the arbitration was heard last week in London, and we're obviously all waiting for the results of that, which we hope will be sometime early in the new year.
Okay. What is the projected outcome if it's in favour of Total, in favour of Oil Search?
Look, I think the good thing about whatever happens is that we'll see the development happen. Most important thing on the Elk Antelope field at the moment is to drill the holes, find out the size of the resource, and the commercial issues between us are not impacting that process. But we clearly want to see resolution as quickly as we can, and we want to move forward with the developments as soon as we can.
Do you have a timeline, a projected timeline for the arbitration case to close and the drilling to continue?
Well, the arbitration case, we should have the results by sometime early in the new year. Drilling will continue through most of next year. We believe it's possible to move Elk Antelope through to front engineering design either late next year or early in 2016, and that would lead to final development decision sometime in 2017. We think that could be accelerated, but that's a reasonably conservative approach to that development.
The Oil Search Health Foundation is moving into other areas such as cancer. Papua New Guinea doesn't have any cancer specialists. Can you expand on the Oil Search Health Foundation?
Well, firstly, as part of the strategic review, our company decided that we would expand activities of the foundation and look at doing something that leaves a long-term legacy in the country, something that over 20 years makes a real difference to PNG. And one of those things that we are looking at is tackling some of the big problems in PNG. We've already looked and are managing some of the HIV programs in the country in conjunction with the National Department of Health. We're now looking at addressing cancer, and I suppose the focus for us initially would be cervical cancer for women, because we believe it is possible to make a real impact on wiping cervical cancer out of Papua New Guinea over a period of time. There are other factors, TB as well. We want to play our role in helping manage the TB situation there. But also, as well as health, we're also looking at leadership, developing PNG's next generation of leadership. We're also looking at women's empowerment, because 50% of the population are women. We want to give them the opportunity to develop their skills, develop their businesses, and make women a real contributor to the economy, much more so than they're allowed to be right now. So there's some of the factors that our foundation will be looking at over the next 12 months.
Mr. Button, what are you hoping we can take away from this 13th PNG Mining Conference?
I think firstly the message is resource pricing is low. So whatever we do in the future, with huge opportunities still remaining in Papua New Guinea, we've actually got to be smarter. We've got to be smarter in the way we develop, both in the mining and the petroleum sector. We have to work together. We can't afford to make mistakes. We can't afford to have costs overrun and projects run out. We do see that there's huge potential, certainly on the petroleum side, and working together with government and bringing Papua New Guinean people along with us, making sure they understand that they are getting a fair share of the development, fair share of the value, and progressively delivering services will give a strong, steady operating environment into our future, where we anticipate the industry as a whole is going to spend some $50 billion over the next 7 years. That's a massive amount of money. We must bring PNG and the PNG people along with us. And we hope that message is taken back to Papua New Guinea, because we think it's an exciting message, but given the low commodity prices, we have to be very careful about how our business runs and how we bring everything together. And that's a key message.
Thank you, Mr. Button.
Pleasure.
And that was Mr. Peter Button from Oil Search.
And that's all we have time for on this edition of Resource PNG. If you want to know more about the program, please email us. Our address, resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. You can also view this edition online by going to www.mtv.com.pg, where you will find a link to the Resource PNG page. Until the next time, I'm Mary Batulo, and this has been Resource PNG.